You won't believe what happened to me last week. I've been a rideshare driver here in the Bay Area for about 3 years. I've seen it all in my car, but this story, oh man. A passenger found out she was pregnant with her husband's business partner's baby right there in my back seat. And that was just the beginning. What happened after was so unreal I still wonder if it was a crazy dream. But it wasn't. It was real. And you'll be floored when you hear how it all ended. Really, I always thought I'd seen everything in this job. 3 years driving around San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland. I've had sobbing drunk people. I've seen couples fighting. My Honda Civic has basically become a confessional. But what happened one Monday morning in late October still gives me chills. It was about 9 in the morning, and I was parked near the Embarcadero, waiting for a ride to pop up. A request came in, a short trip, from the financial district to a hospital in the Mission. All right, I thought. Quick ride must be a doctor's appointment. I accepted it immediately. I pulled up to the pickup spot in front of a big office building on Montgomery Street and saw a woman on the sidewalk. As soon as she got in, I could tell something was off. She was visibly nervous, fidgeting with her hair, checking her phone constantly. She was pretty, maybe in her early 30s, well-dressed, but she looked like she hadn't slept at all. "Morning," I said, looking in the rearview mirror. "All set for the hospital?" Yes," she replied, her voice shaky. "Sorry, I'm a little on edge today." That's when my radar went off. You know how it is, right? In this line of work, you develop a sixth sense. I started paying closer attention. I pulled out slowly, heading toward the hospital. The traffic was surprisingly light for a Monday. She was silent for a few minutes, just messing with her phone, until she started talking. To herself. Oh my God, what if it's positive? What if it really is? Oh Lord, I couldn't help myself. Sorry to butt in, but everything okay? You seem a little worried. She gave a nervous laugh. Oh, it's just, doctor's appointments always make you anxious. But I knew better. That specific kind of anxiety, a hospital visit, a Monday morning, it was either a pregnancy test or something serious. And from the way she was talking to herself, it seemed like the first option. We started talking during the ride. Her name was Luciana, and she worked for a real estate agency downtown. She lived in a nice neighborhood in Marina. She spoke with that slight, sing-songy lilt common to the area. When we got to the hospital entrance, she just sat there, literally. I turned off the engine and asked, "Want me to wait? Sometimes these things take a while." "I don't know," she said, still on her phone. "I think it'll be quick. It's just a test." Then she looked at me in the rearview mirror and said, "Can I tell you something? I really need to get this off my chest and I don't have anyone to talk to." Man, this happens all the time to rideshare drivers. We become unpaid therapists. "Sure," I said. "Spill it." "I think I'm pregnant," she blurted out. "And the worst part is, oh my God, I shouldn't even be telling you this." I let her take her time. Sometimes people just need a few seconds to organize their thoughts. The thing is, if I'm really pregnant, the father isn't my husband. Well, I knew right then this was going to be one of those rides I'd never forget. I stayed quiet, just nodding to show I was listening. "There's this guy. We've known each other for about 2 years. It started as a friendship then. Well, you know how these things happen, right? And now my period is 2 weeks late." Her voice started to tremble. "And the worst part of all is that this guy, he's married, and his wife, oh Jesus Christ, his wife is my best friend." I almost choked right there. What a mess. I didn't know what to say. "She has no idea," Luciana continued. "Marina is like a sister to me. We've known each other since high school. She was my maid of honor. I was hers. And now here I am, possibly pregnant with my best friend's husband's baby." She started to cry. Not a dramatic cry, It was the cry of true despair, of someone watching their life fall apart. How could I have done something like this? How did I get involved? With Leonardo? Marina trusts me so much. Leonardo. Now the guy had a name, and Marina was the wife. Man, what a tangled web. "Look," I said, trying to help. "First things first, let's see if there's really a baby. It might just be a false alarm." "Yeah," she sighed. "That's what I've been trying to convince myself of for 2 weeks." We sat in the car for a few more minutes. She told me the affair with Leonardo started at Marina's own birthday party last year. They were talking in the kitchen, while everyone else was by the pool, and there was a spark, and it just grew from there. At first it was just texting on WhatsApp, she explained. Then it became meeting for coffee, always with some lame excuse. And about 6 months ago, well, you can imagine the rest. What impressed me most was how cold and calculating Leonardo seemed. According to her, he always had an excuse for Marina when he went out with Luciana. Meeting at the office, Client in Sacramento, business lunch. The guy had an answer for everything. And Marina never suspected, I asked. Never. She always talks about how much she trusts Leonardo, how hardworking and dedicated he is. If she only knew, Luciana shook her head, it would destroy her. Marina has been through so much, you know? Her parents died in an accident when she was 20, and she practically raised her younger sister on her own. Leonardo was the first person she was able to truly trust after so much tragedy. Man, the situation got worse with every detail. It wasn't just an affair. It was an affair that would destroy a person who had already suffered so much. Luciana checked her phone again. Well, no use putting it off. I'm going to get this test done. She opened the car door, but before getting out, she looked at me one more time. Thanks for listening. Sometimes you just need to talk to a stranger to get your thoughts straight, you know? No problem, I replied. Good luck. And remember, no matter the result, you're going to have to make a decision. Just don't let things spiral out of control because that's when the bomb explodes in everyone's face. She nodded and got out. I stayed there watching her walk into the hospital. I thought to myself, man, this girl is in for it. Or rather, everyone in this story is in for it. You know what struck me the most? The way she talked about Marina. You could tell she genuinely cared for her friend and felt like a horrible person for the betrayal. It wasn't one of those situations where someone tries to justify their actions, you know? She knew she had messed up. I decided to drive around the mission for a bit while waiting for another ride. But man, I couldn't get the story out of my head. I kept wondering, if it was positive, what would she do? Tell her husband and pretend it was his? Tell the truth and blow up 2 marriages at once? Or go for a plan C and handle it another way? About 2 hours later, I was in the Castro when my appy pinged again. A short ride from the hospital to downtown. I thought, could it be her coming back? And it was. When she got in the car, I knew from her face. She was pale as a ghost, her eyes red from crying. So? I asked, already knowing the answer. Positive, she said, her voice barely a whisper. 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Right in the middle of her most intense period with Leonardo. And you think the story ends here? Man, it's just getting started. What happened in the following days was so surreal that I still can't believe I witnessed it all. If you only knew what Marina already knew about her husband and what Leonardo was hiding from everyone. But hold on, because it's about to get a whole lot crazier. A lot crazier. And the ride back downtown was tense. Luciana didn't say a word for the first few minutes. She just stared out the window, looking like she'd just received the worst news of her life. I respected her silence, but I was curious to know what her next move would be. When we got to a stoplight on a busy street, she finally broke the ice. 7 weeks, she repeated, as if she still couldn't believe it. 7 weeks. So now what? I asked softly. She let out a sigh that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. Now I'm completely screwed. Completely. Then she started doing the mental calculations every woman does when she finds out about an unplanned pregnancy. 7 weeks. That was right around the time Rodrigo and I had a fight and slept in separate rooms for a week. He was traveling for work too. Rodrigo was her husband, I found out. A corporate lawyer. Is there a chance it's your husband's? I asked, trying to be delicate. There is, she admitted, but it's very slim. We weren't very active, you know. And during those weeks I was meeting up with Leonardo almost every day. Her voice turned bitter. It's like the universe is conspiring to mess with me. We got to Montgomery Street, and she asked me to pull over in front of a pharmacy. I just need to buy something real quick. She came back with a home pregnancy test. I know I already had the lab test done, but I need to see it with my own eyes, you know? I understood perfectly. Sometimes you just need a second confirmation even when you know what the result will be. Want me to take you home? I offered. No, she said too quickly. I mean, I can't go home like this. Rodrigo works from home on Mondays. If he sees me in this state, he'll start asking questions. She paused, thinking, can you take me to Westfield Mall? I'll go to the restroom and take this test, and then I need to figure out what I'm going to do. On the way to the mall, she started telling me more details about Leonardo. And man, the more she talked, the more I thought the guy was a manipulative jerk. He always said he felt trapped in his marriage. She said that he married too young, that Marina was too emotionally dependent on him. He always painted himself as the victim. Typical married man's speech to justify an affair, right? I'd heard that one before in my car. And I, the idiot, believed him. Luciana continued, angry at herself. I thought I was saving him from an unhappy marriage. How romantic, right? And Marina? What's she like? Oh, Marina is a sweetheart. Luciana's voice softened. She's a vet at a clinic in Sausalito. She's one of those people who takes care of everyone, you know? Always worried about others, always willing to help. She paused. That's why it's so much worse. If she were a bad person, maybe I'd feel less guilty. But no, she's literally the best person I know. We arrived at the mall and she got out. Give me 15 minutes? I'll take this test and be right back. While I waited, I thought about the situation. Man, what a pickle. A woman pregnant with her best friend's husband's baby, not knowing whether to tell or not, whether to own up to it or pretend it's her husband's. And on top of that, realizing she might have been manipulated by the guy all along. When she got back in the car, she didn't have to say a word. Her face said it all. Confirmed. Definitely pregnant. So now what, Luciana? I asked. Now I need to talk to him, she said with a determination she hadn't had before. I need to talk to Leonardo today. Are you sure? I am. He has to know, and he has to help me decide what to do about this situation. She picked up her phone and sent a text. A few seconds later, she got a reply. He can meet me this afternoon, she said. He wants me to go to his house. To his house? I asked, surprised. What about Marina? She's at work. He said she won't be back until 6. Man, this Leonardo was brazen. Inviting his mistress to the house he shares with his wife? What a complete lack of character. Where is his house? I asked. In Marina. Can you take me there? The address she gave me was on a street I knew well. Big houses, an upscale neighborhood. A typical place for a young, successful couple to live. On the way to Marina, she practiced how she was going to tell Leonardo the news. I think I'll just be direct, she mumbled. Leonardo, I'm pregnant. It's yours. Now what? Have you thought about what you'll do if he wants you to, handle the situation? I asked, trying to be delicate. She was quiet for a few minutes. I don't know. I never thought I'd have to make a decision like that in my life. When we got to the street, she asked me to pull over a few houses down. I'd better get out here. What if a neighbor knows Marina and sees me getting out of your car? Before she got out, she looked at me again. Can you come back and get me in an hour? I don't know how this conversation will go, but after I'll need someone to take me home. Of course, I replied. I'll drive around the area and be back in an hour. She got out and started walking toward the house. I watched until she disappeared. I had a bad feeling about that conversation. I decided to grab lunch at a nearby restaurant and then drove around to pick up a few small rides. But man, I couldn't stop thinking about the situation. What would Leonardo say? Would he take responsibility? Would he push her to handle it alone? Or would he do what a lot of guys do in this situation? Disappear. Exactly an hour later, I was back on the street. Luciana was waiting for me on the corner, and just by looking at her, I knew the conversation hadn't gone well. She got in the car with a look I'll never forget. It was a mix of anger, disappointment, and deep sadness. How was it? I asked, already guessing the answer. What an idiot I was, she began, her voice full of bitterness. What an idiot I was to think this man cared about me. She told me Leonardo first didn't believe she was pregnant, then he wanted to see the test results, and when he was finally convinced, the first thing he said was, "Are you sure it's mine? Can you believe it?" she said, indignant. The guy who'd been feeding me lines for 6 months about how much he loved me, how special I was, how he wanted to build a life with me. The first thing he says is questioning if the baby is his. But the worst was yet to come. Then he started with that whole speech, she continued, that it wasn't the right time, that it would complicate everyone's lives, that Marina didn't deserve to go through this. And what was the solution he suggested? I asked, already suspicious. That I handled the situation without involving him. He said he'd give me money for a private, discreet procedure, and we'd pretend none of this ever happened. Man, that's disgusting. The guy spends months seducing a woman, feeds her a bunch of garbage about love and their future, and at the first sign of trouble, he wants her to handle it alone and keep quiet about everything. And you? What did you say? I told him he was crazy if he thought it was going to be that simple, she replied with a newfound firmness. I told him this decision wasn't just his, and if he thought he could use me and then throw me away, he was dead wrong. And then what? Then he showed me who he really is, she said with contempt in her voice. He started threatening me. He said if I told Marina anything, he'd deny everything. He'd say I was crazy, that I was obsessed with him, that I'd made up the pregnancy to blackmail him. My blood boiled hearing that. What kind of a worm does something like that to a person? He said more, she continued. He said he had proof that I was the one who chased after him all along, that he had compromising messages and photos of me, and that if I made any move to hurt him, he'd use it all against me. What a son of a bitch, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Exactly what he is, she agreed. And I, the fool, thinking he was a victim of an unhappy marriage. The guy is a professional manipulator. We were silent for a few minutes. I was processing Leonardo's cruelty, and she was likely replaying every interaction she'd had with him over the past 2 years. So now what? I finally asked. Now I don't know, she admitted. But one thing I'm sure of, I'm not going to let this jerk intimidate me, and I'm not going to make a decision alone that affects so many people's lives. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time for Marina to know who she's married to. Man, when she said that, I got a chill. This was taking on a scale I hadn't imagined. Luciana wasn't just dealing with an unplanned pregnancy anymore. Now she was considering dropping a bomb and telling her best friend everything. Are you sure about that? I asked. Because once you say it, there's no going back. I know, she said, looking out the window. But you know what? I've been thinking, if Leonardo did this to me, how many others has he done it to? And poor Marina, thinking she has a perfect marriage. She was right. A guy with that smooth talk, that coldness to manipulate situations. Luciana was hardly the first. Where do you want to go now? I asked. Take me home, she said. I need to think, and I need to decide if I'm going to talk to Rodrigo before I talk to Marina. Rodrigo. Man, I had completely forgotten about her husband and all this chaos. The poor guy had no idea of the hurricane that was about to hit his life. On the way to her house, a small but pretty, well-kept house in Marina, she was quieter. I could tell she was processing everything that had happened that morning. She woke up thinking she might be pregnant, confirmed that she was, found out the guy she thought she loved was a piece of garbage, and now had to decide whether to blow up everyone's lives or try to handle things quietly. When we got to her place, she looked at me before getting out. Thank you for today, for listening to me, for driving me around. You don't even know me, and you've helped me more than the father of my child. It's no big deal, I replied. Sometimes life puts us in the right place at the right time to help someone, you know? She nodded. Yeah, maybe so. Before she closed the door, she said, I think I'll need your services in the next few days. Can I have your personal number? I think a lot is about to happen around here. We exchanged numbers and she got out. I watched her go inside and thought, man, this woman is about to turn everyone's lives upside down. And I had no idea how right she was about needing my services. Because what happened in the days that followed, oh my God, if you think it's complicated now, just wait until you see what Marina did when she found out the truth about her husband. On Tuesday morning, I was having coffee at home when my phone rang. It was Luciana. Hi, can you pick me up? Her voice sounded different, more determined. I've decided what I'm going to do. Sure, where are you? At home. And can you take me to Marina's vet clinic? I'm going to talk to her. Man, my stomach lurched just hearing that. Are you sure? Yesterday you seemed a little on the fence. I spent the whole night thinking, she said. I talked to Rodrigo too. What do you mean? You told him? I told him I'm pregnant. I didn't tell him the rest yet, but his reaction made me sure that I need to be honest with everyone. On the way to her house, I tried to imagine how that conversation with her husband had gone. When I got there, she was waiting for me at the door. I could see she'd been crying, but there was a determination in her eyes she hadn't had before. How was it with Rodrigo? I asked as soon as she got in the car. Complicated, she sighed. He was so happy about the news. He started talking about baby names, how he was going to set up the nursery, telling our families. You know that genuine happiness of someone who's always wanted to be a dad? I understood right away why she had made her AA decision. Seeing her husband's sincere joy and knowing the baby was probably not his must have been a gut punch. Does he suspect anything? No. He's so happy it didn't even cross his mind to question anything. And that just makes it worse because I saw how much he really loves me. And he doesn't deserve to live a lie. We headed toward Sausalito, where the vet clinic was. On the way, she told me she had spent the night researching Leonardo online. You won't believe what I found, she said, with a mix of anger and disgust. The guy has profiles on extramarital dating sites. No way. I swear to God. Active profiles with recent photos. And from the conversations I managed to see, he was meeting up with several women. Man, the more I found out about this Leonardo, the more disgusted I was. The guy wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was making it practically a hobby. There's more, she continued. I managed to track down some of his social media and found photos in places he never took me to, with people he never mentioned. The guy has a complete double life. And you're going to show all this to Marina? I'm going to show her everything. She needs to know who she's married to. We arrived at the vet clinic, a small but nice-looking place on a quiet street in Sausalito. From the activity, You could tell it was a well-respected clinic. Want me to wait? I asked. Yes, please. I don't know how long it will take, but I think I'll need a ride after this. Conversation. She got out and went into the clinic. Through the glass door, I could see a pretty blonde woman in her 30s wearing a white lab coat. That must have been Marina. They hugged like close friends, and Marina seemed happy about the unexpected visit. I stayed in the car, imagining how the conversation would go. How do you walk up to your best friend and say, "Hi, sweetie, I'm pregnant with your husband's baby"? There's no easy way to deliver news like that. About 20 minutes. Later, I saw them go into a room in the back of the clinic, probably a more private place to talk. Another half hour passed. I was starting to get worried when I saw some strange movement in the clinic. Marina appeared at the front desk, said something to the receptionist, and then left through the back door. Weird. 5 minutes later, Luciana appeared at the front door. And man, the look on her face was like she'd been through a hurricane. She waved at me and walked slowly to the car. How did it go? I asked as soon as she got in. Different than I expected, she said, her voice strange. Very different. What do you mean? Marina, she already knew. What? She already knew about the cheating. She didn't know it was with me, but she knew Leonardo was cheating on her. Man, I did not see that coming. How did she know? She told me that about 3 months ago she started getting suspicious. Leonardo would come home smelling of different perfume. He'd get strange calls. He'd go out for meetings that didn't match his schedule. Luciana paused to breathe. So she hired a private investigator. A private investigator, seriously. Dead serious. And he found out that Leonardo wasn't just cheating on her with me. He was cheating on her with me and with several other women. Oh my God. The situation was worse than anyone imagined. How many others? I asked, shocked. According to the detective, at least 4 regulars, and several others occasionally. And how did Marina react when you told her about you two? She wasn't surprised, Luciana said, shaking her head. She was more relieved to finally have confirmation of who the other women were. And about the pregnancy? That's when she got upset. Because an affair is one thing. A child in the middle of it is another. We were silent for a few minutes, processing everything. Marina wasn't the innocent victim we thought she was. She had been investigating her husband for months, collecting evidence. So where did she go now? I asked. She went to get the evidence the detective collected. She wants to show me everything. Everything what? Photos, conversations, receipts. It turns out Leonardo isn't just cheating on Marina. He's also embezzling money from her family's company. What? The clinic and other family businesses belong to Marina. She inherited everything from her parents. Leonardo works as an administrator, but apparently he's been using company money to fund his playboy lifestyle. Man, with every new piece of information, Leonardo showed himself to be an even bigger scumbag. Not only did he cheat on his wife, but he also stole from her. So now what? What's the plan? Marina wants us to wait for her at her house. She said she wants to show us everything she's discovered and plan how she's going to confront Leonardo. Us? She wants me to go too? Yes. She said you're already involved in the story anyway, and she needs a witness for everything that's about to go down. On the way to Marina's house, Luciana told me more about the conversation. You know what impressed me the most? She said. Marina wasn't angry with me. She felt sorry for me. Sorry? Yeah. She said I was just another one of Leonardo's victims, that he's an expert at manipulating women, at making each one feel special, unique. And what are you guys going to do? Confront him together? Marina has a plan, and from what she told me, it's going to be a lot more elaborate than just a confrontation. We arrived at their house in Sausalito. It was bigger than I had imagined, well kept, with a nice garden in the front. A typical house for a young, successful couple. But now I knew all that success came from Marina's money, not Leonardo's. We went inside and Marina was already there with several folders and documents spread out on the living room table. Sit down, she said, pointing to the couch. Just by looking at her, you could tell she was a strong woman. She wasn't crying, she wasn't desperate. She was focused, determined. You're about to see the kind of man Leonardo is, she said, opening the first folder. And man, what she showed us in the next 2 hours was shocking. Photos of Leonardo leaving motels with different women. WhatsApp conversations where he used the exact same romantic lines on all of them. Receipts for excessive spending on gifts and dinners. Look at this one, Marina said, showing a conversation. This is him with a woman from Berkeley. He says the exact same things he said to you, Luciana. It was true. You're special. I've never felt this way about anyone. My marriage is meaningless. The guy had a ready-made script he used on everyone. And this, she said, showing other documents, is the money he embezzled from the company. It was over $50,000 in 2 years, money he justified as business expenses, but was actually spending on his mistresses. This man didn't just cheat on me, Marina said, with a chilling calm. He stole from me, lied to me, manipulated me, and now he's going to be a father to a child. She looked at Luciana. And you, honey, you're going to have to decide what to do with that pregnancy. But before that, the two of us are going to teach that scumbag a lesson he'll never forget. What kind of a lesson? I asked. Marina smiled, and man, that smile gave me chills. Leonardo thinks he's so smart, right? That he's fooling everyone? Well, tonight he's going to find out what it's like to be fooled. And that's when she explained the most devious and at the same time most righteous plan I've ever heard. A plan that would make Leonardo feel exactly how he made women feel: used, manipulated, and discarded. Today's Tuesday, Marina began, looking at her watch. Leonardo always gets home at 6:30. We have a few hours to get everything ready. She picked up her phone and started typing. First, I'm going to text him, saying I have to work late tonight, that he can grab dinner out, that he doesn't have to wait for me. That'll make him think he can call one of his mistresses, Luciana realized. Exactly, and I know exactly who he's going to call. Marina showed us her phone. The private investigator had found out that every Tuesday, when Marina worked late, Leonardo met up with a woman named Patricia from Oakland. Patricia is an accountant who works downtown. Whenever I work late, they meet at the same motel on the I-80. Marina's plan was diabolical and brilliant at the same time. She was going to pretend she was working, but in reality, she was going to follow Leonardo to the motel. And then came the most brutal part of the plan. You guys are going to help me, she said, looking at me and Luciana, because I want him to be confronted by all the women he's deceived. At the same time. What do you mean? I asked. I already have the numbers of 3 of his mistresses. Today's is Patricia, some woman named Fernanda from Berkeley, and Luciana here. The detective got me their numbers. She opened a folder and showed us printouts of WhatsApp conversations. I'm going to text each of them, pretending to be a concerned friend, telling them Leonardo is lying to them. I'll arrange a meeting at the same motel at the same time. And then, Luciana asked, curious, then the 3 of you are going to show up and confront him together. And while that's happening, I'll be filming. Everything. Man, I had never seen a revenge plan so well orchestrated. Marina had thought of every single detail. But there's more, she continued. After you confront him at the motel, we're all going to the company. Tonight, I'm going to fire him and present all the evidence of the embezzlement. You can do that? I asked. I can and I will. The company is mine. He's an employee. And with the evidence I have, I can even press criminal charges against him. Luciana was silent for a few minutes, processing everything. Marina, she said finally, are you sure you want to do this? Because there's no going back. Honey, Marina replied with that chilling calm. There's been no going back since the moment he chose to cheat on me with my best friend, and with so many others, and steal my money. He'd better be ready for the consequences. It was about 3 in the afternoon when Marina started putting her plan into action. First, she called Leonardo. Sweetheart, I'm going to have to stay late tonight, I heard her say on the phone, her voice sweet, pretending she had no idea. We got a dog hit by a car. It's going to be a long surgery. Don't wait up for dinner, okay? On the other end of the line, you could tell Leonardo was relieved by the news. Okay, my love, she continued. Love you. Bye. When she hung up, her face completely changed. The sweet expression turned into a coldness that was terrifying. All right, now he's going to run to his phone to set something up. And it didn't even take 5 minutes. Leonardo's phone, which Marina had cloned through the detective, started receiving and making calls. Patricia, Marina said, looking at the screen. Just as I figured. Through the app the detective had installed, we could see the conversation in real time. Leonardo. Hi, beautiful. Marina's working late tonight. Can we meet up? Patricia. Hi, love. Of course. Same place as always? Leonardo. Yes. 7:30? Patricia. Perfect. Can't wait. Disgusting, Luciana commented. He talks to her exactly the same way he talked to me. It's his MO, Marina explained. Each one thinks she's special, but they all get the same treatment. Now came the riskiest part of the plan. Marina was going to text Leonardo's other mistresses, pretending to be a concerned friend. She started with Fernanda, from Berkeley. Marina. Hi, Fernanda. You don't know me, but I'm friends with someone who is also involved with Leonardo. I need to tell you something important about him. Can you meet me today at 7:30 p.m. at the Star Motel on the I-80? It's urgent. The reply came back fast. Who are you? How did you get my number? Marina. I'm someone who wants to help you. Leonardo isn't who you think he is. If you want to know the truth about him, show up tonight. With Luciana, it was easier since she was right there and agreed to be part of the plan. I want to see the look on his face when he finds out we all know the truth, she said with an anger I'd never seen. At 7 o'clock, we were all in position. Marina had rented a car, so she wouldn't be recognized, and was parked at a gas station near the motel with a professional camera she'd borrowed from a photographer friend. I drove Luciana to the motel. Fernanda was already there, a pretty brunette in her mid-20s, visibly confused. Are you Luciana? She asked when we got out of the car. I am, and you must be Fernanda. They greeted each other with that tension of people who don't know exactly what they're doing there but know it has to do with Leonardo. Do you know what time he's getting here? Fernanda asked. Any minute now, Luciana replied, looking at her watch. And as if on cue, Leonardo's car, a black Civic I had seen at his house, pulled in. He got out and started walking toward the front office when he saw the two women standing at the entrance. The look on his face, man, it was priceless. First confusion, then recognition, then pure panic. Luciana? He stammered. What are you doing here? Hi, Leonardo, she replied with a theatrical calm. Do you know Fernanda? He looked at Fernanda, then at Luciana, then at me, who was there as the driver witness, and you could see the desperation growing in his eyes. I don't understand, he tried. You don't understand? Fernanda broke in. Then let me explain. You meet up with me every month. You tell me you love me. You say you're going to leave your wife, and at the same time, you're meeting up with her. And me, a third voice said from behind us. It was Patricia who had just arrived, a blonde in her 30s, well-dressed, with a face that said she was not to be messed with. What's this meeting about? She asked, looking at everyone. It's the club for women Leonardo has cheated on, Luciana replied. From there, it was chaos. Leonardo tried to explain, to make excuses, but the more he talked, the worse the situation got. You guys don't understand, he said, desperate. Each of you is special to me in a different way. Special? Patricia yelled. You told me the exact same thing you told them. And how many others? Fernanda chimed in. That's when Luciana dropped the bombshell. And there's one more thing you need to know. I'm pregnant, and he's the father. The silence that followed was deafening. The other two women looked at Leonardo with a mix of disgust and disbelief. Pregnant? Patricia repeated, as if she couldn't believe it. How many months? Fernanda asked. 7 weeks, Luciana answered. Leonardo was pale as a ghost. He was sweating, looking around like a cornered animal. I can explain. He tried one more time. Explain what? I jumped in. That you're a liar? That you fooled all of them? That you're stealing money from your own wife to fund this playboy life? Stealing money? Patricia asked, shocked. Yes, Luciana confirmed. Over $50,000 in 2 years. The three women looked at each other and came to the same conclusion at the same time. They were all victims of the same emotional con man. Leonardo tried to run, but I positioned myself in front of his car. Hold on, champ, I said. The conversation isn't over. And that's when Marina appeared. She came out from behind a van with the camera in her hand, filming everything. Hi, honey, she said to Leonardo with that icy smile. Surprise. The look on Leonardo's face when he saw his wife there, filming everything, with the three mistresses, surrounding him. Man, I'll never forget it. It was the face of complete defeat. Marina, he whispered, as if he'd seen a ghost. That's right, Marina, she confirmed. Your wife. Remember me? The one you promised to love and respect? The one you've been cheating on and stealing from for years? And then, man, Marina did something none of us expected. Instead of screaming, of making a scene, she just started to clap. Congratulations, Leonardo, she said ironically. You've achieved something I thought was impossible. You've united 4 women who didn't know each other around a common goal, to watch you get what you deserve. What happened after that was even more surreal, because the night was just beginning, and Marina's plan had one more step, a step that would leave Leonardo completely broken. You have no idea how crazy this story is still going to get. If you thought you'd seen it all, get ready, because what went down at the company after this? Wow, I'm still impressed by Marina's coldness and intelligence. After the show at the motel, Marina looked at her watch. It was 8:30 at night. Perfect, she said. Now for part 2. Leonardo was completely lost, sweating, trembling, trying to understand how the situation had spiraled so far out of control. Marina, please, he started to beg. We can talk about this at home. Alone. Alone? She laughed, but it was a humorless laugh. Sweetheart, you lost the right to talk to me alone the moment you decided to cheat on me with half of San Francisco. She turned to us. Who wants to come with me to the company to watch Leonardo get fired? Patricia and Fernanda decided to leave. They had seen enough and wanted to be far away from all that mess. But Luciana agreed to come along. I want to see that son of a bitch lose everything, she said with an anger I had never seen. And me? Well, at this point, I was completely invested. It was like watching a live soap opera, only 1,000 times better. Marina's company was in a commercial building in Berkeley, in a small but well-located office. On the way there, she explained how the firing would go down. I already called my lawyer, she said. He'll be there in 15 minutes with the paperwork, firing for cause with all the evidence of the embezzlement. Leonardo was following us in his car, probably trying to figure out a way out. But man, there was no way out. Marina had planned everything, down to the last detail. When we got to the company, the lawyer was already waiting, a serious man in his 50s with a briefcase full of documents. Good evening, Marina, he said. Everything is ready. We all went into the office. Me, Luciana, Marina, the lawyer, and finally Leonardo. He looked like he was about to throw up at any moment. Have a seat, Leonardo, Marina said, pointing to the chair in front of the office desk. We have a few things to settle. What happened next was one of the coldest things I've ever witnessed. Marina opened the folders and started showing, one by one, all the evidence against Leonardo. Here, she said, placing a paper on the desk. $52,430 embezzled in 2 years. She showed another document. Here, a fake invoice for a business dinner that was actually a romantic date with Patricia. Another one. Here, a motel charge on the company credit card. Leonardo tried to defend himself. Marina, you don't understand. I was going to pay the money back. You were going to pay it back? She asked with that terrifying calm. With what money? The salary I pay you? The lawyer broke in. Mr. Leonardo, what we have here is grand larceny, misuse of a corporate card, and falsification of documents. Ms. Marina can press criminal charges. The color drained from Leonardo's face. Criminal charges? That's right, Marina confirmed. But I'm a generous person. If you sign your resignation right now, without contesting it and agree to pay back the money in installments, I won't press criminal charges. And if I don't sign, then you'll be leaving here and going straight to the police station. The guy had no choice. He signed the resignation immediately, but Marina wasn't done yet. Oh, and there's one more thing, she said, taking a key from her pocket. The apartment you live in. What about it? It's mine. I inherited it from my parents along with the company. You have until Sunday to move out. Man, I saw Leonardo completely fall apart at that moment. He lost his job, he had to pay back $50,000, and now he was homeless. Marina, for God's sake, he begged. Where am I supposed to live? That's not my problem, she replied coldly. You should have thought about that before you cheated on me and stole from me. Luciana, who had been quiet until then, decided to deliver the final blow. And there's one more thing, Leonardo, about the baby. He looked at her, with a last glimmer of hope in his eyes. Luciana, we can talk. There's nothing to talk about, she interrupted. I've decided I'm going to tell Rodrigo everything, the whole truth, and I'm going to raise this child away from you. You can't do that. Yes, I can, and I will. You lost any right to have an opinion on my life the moment you called me crazy and tried to blackmail me. Leonardo looked around at all of us, as if he were looking for support, but all he saw were faces of people who were disgusted with him. You guys don't understand, he tried one more time, desperate. I loved you both. Loved? Marina scoffed. Leonardo, you don't even know what love is. All you know how to do is use people. The lawyer gathered all the papers. All right, everything is settled here. Mr. Leonardo, you have until Sunday to vacate the property, and the first payment on the debt is due in 30 days. When we left the office, it was almost 10 at night. Leonardo stayed behind, probably trying to process how his life had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. On the way back, Marina was strangely calm. How do you feel? Luciana asked. Relieved, she replied. You know that feeling of having a heavy weight lifted off your shoulders? That's it. So now what? What are you going to do? Now I'm going to rebuild my life, without lies, without betrayals, without having to be suspicious of my husband's every move. I dropped Marina off at home first. Before she got out of the car, she gave me a generous tip. Thank you for everything today, she said. You were a big part of this. It's nothing, I replied. Sometimes life just puts you in the right place at the right time. Then I took Luciana home, During the ride, she was quiet, processing everything that had happened. "So now what?" I asked when we got to her house. "Now I'm going to talk to Rodrigo," she said with determination. "I'm going to tell him everything. About the affair, about the pregnancy, about it all. Do you think he'll forgive you?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not, but at least I'll be able to sleep with a clear conscience, knowing I'm not living a lie." Before she got out, she looked at me. "You know what else? For the first time in 2 years, I feel free. Free from Leonardo's lies, free from the guilt of cheating on Marina, and free to make your own decisions about the baby." "Exactly. Whatever decision I make, it'll be mine. Not Leonardo's, not Rodrigo's, mine." Wednesday morning, I was having coffee when she called me. "I told Rodrigo everything," she said, her voice choked up. "How was it?" "Horrible. He was devastated. He cried, he yelled, he broke a few things. My heart ached for them. So now what? Now he's asked for some space. He said he needs to think about whether he can forgive me, whether he can raise a child that might not be his. And you? How are you feeling?" "Sad, but relieved too. At least now there are no more lies between us." "And about the baby, have you decided anything?" "I've decided I'm going to have it no matter what. If Rodrigo wants to stay, great. If not, I'll raise it on my own." "And Marina? Did you talk to her?" "I did. She offered me a job at the vet clinic." "Seriously?" "Yeah. She said she's always needed help with the administrative side of things and that she'd rather work with someone she can trust." Man, I did not expect that. After everything that had happened, Marina wanted Luciana as an employee. "Are you going to accept?" "I am. I think we can be true friends now, with no lies between us." Over the next week, I got a few updates on the situation. Leonardo had moved in with his mom in a small apartment in Oakland. He lost his car, which belonged to the company. He lost his status. He lost everything. Marina did hire Luciana, and from what I heard, the two were working very well together. And Rodrigo? Well, Rodrigo made a decision nobody saw coming. On Friday, Luciana called me again. "Can you pick me up?" she asked. "I want to tell you something unbelievable that happened." When I got to her house, I saw 2 suitcases by the door. "Going on a trip?" I asked. "I'm moving," she said with a smile I hadn't seen in days. "Where to?" "To Marina's house." "What?" And that's when she told me the most surprising thing in this whole crazy story. Something I never would have imagined could happen. But hold on, because I'm going to tell you everything. What Rodrigo decided, what Marina proposed, and how this whole story had an ending that nobody, not a single person, saw coming. On the way to Marina's house, Luciana told me about the most insane conversation she had with Rodrigo the night before. "You know what he told me?" she began, still in disbelief. "That he can no longer trust me as a wife, but he doesn't want me to raise the baby on my own." "What do you mean?" "He said he wants to divorce me, but wants to continue being the baby's father, even knowing it might not be his." Man, I did not expect that. Rodrigo wanted to be the father of a child that probably wasn't his, even if it meant divorcing the mother. "And how are you going to do that?" "That's the crazy part," she said. "Marina proposed a solution that, well, you'll see when we get there." We arrived at Marina's house, and she was waiting for us at the door with that enigmatic smile I had come to fear. "Hi, guys," she greeted us. "Come in, and I'll explain." Everything. In the living room, there was someone I didn't expect to see. Rodrigo. He was sitting on the couch, looking like he'd made the most difficult decision of his life. "Hi, Luciana," he said, getting up to greet his ex-wife. There was no anger in his voice, just a deep sadness. "Rodrigo," she replied, visibly emotional. "All right," Marina began, clapping her hands to get our attention. "I'm going to explain the proposal I made to you two." She sat down in an armchair, taking control of the situation as she always did. "Rodrigo came to me yesterday," she said. "He said he wants to divorce Luciana because he can't trust her as a wife anymore, but he can't abandon an innocent child." I looked at Rodrigo, who nodded in confirmation. "And Luciana," Marina continued, "needs a place to live, a stable job, and support during the pregnancy." "So?" I asked, curious to know where she was going with this. So I thought, why don't we solve everything at once? She got up and went to a whiteboard on a table. "My proposal is this. Luciana comes to live here with me. She'll work at the clinic, have a steady salary and support during her pregnancy. Rodrigo can visit whenever he wants, and be involved in everything related to the baby." "And what do you get out of it?" I asked, because she obviously wasn't doing this out of charity. "I get a true friend, a trustworthy employee, and, well, company. This house is too big for just one person." Luciana looked at Rodrigo. "And you agree to this?" I do, he said with conviction. I think it's what's best for everyone. You have a place to stay. I can be the baby's father without having to pretend our marriage isn't over, and Marina gets a friend. But there's more, Marina said with that mischievous smile. I also have some news to share. What news? Luciana asked. I'm also pregnant. The silence in the room was absolute. Everyone looked at Marina as if she had spoken Chinese. How are you also pregnant? I asked. With Leonardo's baby. I found out yesterday. But how? Luciana yelled. Well, Marina said calmly. Apparently, in the last few weeks, before I found out about all the cheating, Leonardo and I had a few reconciliations, and one of them resulted in this. She showed us a positive pregnancy test. 3 weeks. Very recent. Luciana collapsed on the couch. Oh my God. The two of us pregnant with the same man's baby. Yeah, Marina confirmed. And you know what else? I've decided I'm going to have the baby too. But Marina, Rodrigo broke in. Are you sure? After everything he did, I'm sure, she said with determination. First, because I'm not going to punish an innocent child for their father's mistakes. Second, because now I have the means to raise a child on my own. And third, she paused dramatically. Third, because this way I'll have the biggest leverage against Leonardo for the rest of my life. What do you mean? I asked. Think about it, she explained. He's going to have 2 children he can never truly be a father to. 2 children who will grow up knowing what kind of man their dad is, and he's going to have to pay child support for both of them. Man, Marina was truly diabolical. She had turned a horrible situation into a strategic advantage. And there's more, she continued. You know what the best revenge I can have against Leonardo is? What? Luciana asked. To be happy. To show him I don't need him for anything. That I'm stronger without him than with him. She looked at Luciana. And the 2 of us together raising our children, running the clinic, building a good life. That will show him and everyone else that a woman doesn't need a man to be happy. Rodrigo smiled. You know what? I think you 2 are going to be amazing together. I think so too, I agreed. But Marina, have you thought about all the complications? 2 children by the same father, raised as siblings. I have, she said. And I've decided that's Leonardo's problem, not mine. He's the one who will have to explain to his kids why their dad is a jerk. Luciana was silent for a few minutes, processing everything. Marina, she said finally, are you sure you want to do this? To take me in, even after everything? Luciana, Marina replied sincerely. You were Leonardo's victim just as much as I was. The difference is, you had the courage to tell the truth. That shows the kind of character you have. And what if it doesn't work out? If living together doesn't work, then we'll talk it out like civilized people. But I have a feeling it will work. Rodrigo got up. Well, it's decided. Luciana, you'll live here. Marina, you have my number. Anything you need related to the baby, you call me. He looked at Luciana with affection. And Lou, thank you for telling me the truth. I know it wasn't easy. Rodrigo, she started, her eyes welling up with tears. No, he interrupted. You don't need to apologize again. What's done is done. Now let's focus on the future. He said goodbye to everyone and left. We were left there, me, Marina, and Luciana, processing all that madness. Man, I said, shaking my head, this story is getting crazier and crazier. I know, Marina agreed. But you know what else? I've never felt so good. Really? I asked. Really? I've realized I don't need a man for anything. I have my company, my financial independence, a true friend. She looked at Luciana with affection. And soon I'll have my child. And I, Luciana added, learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens in your life can turn into the best. If it weren't for all this mess, I never would have discovered what Leonardo was really like, never would have gotten away from him, and never would have gained a friend like Marina. And Rodrigo? I asked. How are things with him? Great, Luciana replied. He comes here every weekend, helps with the baby room preparations. He's practically an older brother to me now. And you, Marina, don't you miss being in a relationship? Not for now, she said honestly. I want to focus on my child, my company, my friendship with Lou. A relationship, well, if a worthy man ever comes along, we'll see. But I'm not looking. When I said goodbye to them that day, I thought about how unpredictable life is. A routine ride to the hospital had put me in the middle of the craziest story I'd ever witnessed. 2 months later, I got an invitation on WhatsApp. It was for their baby shower. Double baby shower, the invitation said. Marina and Luciana celebrate the arrival of the future best friends. When I got to the party, in the clubhouse of the condo where they lived, I was impressed by the number of people. There were their families, friends, co-workers, and even some of Leonardo's other ex-mistresses who had become their friends after all the exposure. "Look who showed up," Marina yelled when she saw me, her belly big and round. "Our favorite driver. How are you guys doing?" I asked, hugging both of them. "Amazing," Luciana replied, beaming. "Can't wait for the babies to get here." "And Leonardo, any more news from him?" "Not a word," Marina said. "And to be honest, we barely remember he exists." During the party, they told everyone how our friendship had started, the story of the ride to the hospital, of the pregnancy discovery, of how I had become their private driver during all that madness. "Without him," Luciana said into the microphone, "I might never have had the courage to tell Marina the truth. And without her courage," Marina completed, "I might never have found out what kind of man I was married to." At the end of the party, as I was leaving, they called me over. "We have a proposition for you," Marina said. "What's the proposition?" "We want you to be the godfather to both babies," Luciana explained. Man, I was so touched. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," they both said together. "You're the person who brought us together," Marina explained. "If it weren't for you, this whole story might have had a very different ending." 6 months later, I was at the hospital, in the maternity ward waiting room. Marina had gone into labor in the morning, and Luciana, who still had a month to go, was right there with her, giving her support. When little Helena, Marina's daughter, was born, I was there. And a month later, when little Gabriel, Luciana's son, was born, I was there too. Today, 2 years later, I am the proud godfather to both of them. Helena and Gabriel are raised like true siblings. They play together, they fight together, they're inseparable. Marina and Luciana run the vet clinic together and are closer than most blood sisters. Rodrigo is still a constant presence in Gabriel's life and has become an uncle to Helena too. And Leonardo? Well, Leonardo is still living with his mom in Oakland, paying child support for the 2 children he sees once a month when he shows up, and working a dead-end job that barely pays the bills. Sometimes I drive by and see him at the bus stop. I always pretend I don't see him, but I know he recognizes me. He probably remembers me as the driver who was there the day his life completely fell apart. And you know what's funny? Sometimes when I'm driving around, a passenger will comment on that story that went viral online about the guy who exposed himself. They don't know I was there, witnessing it all from the beginning, but I just smile and change the subject, because some stories are too good to just be spread around. They're treasures you only share with those who deserve to hear them, and this was one of the best stories I've ever lived. The story of how 2 women turned the biggest betrayal of their lives into the biggest victory they could have. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's that you should never, ever underestimate the strength of a woman who decides to get back on her feet, and even less, the strength of 2 women who decide to get back on their feet together